Hey there and welcome to Geopolitics 4-1. Very interesting for me as an African to watch France demonstrate and to see the French people say that Macron must go. You know, Macron has been behaving as if he's the savior of the world, a peace promoter, loved by everyone. And now it's evident the people of France don't feel him, don't want him, don't feel like he's doing what a president ought to do for his people. And so they've decided to go to the street and to tell him, you know what, Macron must go. Well, we are watching to see if indeed he will go or what happens next. So the nationwide protests broke out across France on Wednesday as protesters clashed with police and of course, anger. This was fueled by anger against Macron and the political class. So the protests had been called about months ago, and they had been named Block Everything. So this came after the former Prime Minister, Francois Bayrou, I hope I pronounced that right, that's a French name. I speak English, so it might be different. So he lost to a vote of no confidence over his unpopular plan to tame the fiscal deficit. The people are not happy. Even his vote being told, no, we don't agree with this, he had to leave. And so people are not happy, and so the citizens have taken to the street. So as a way of reacting, as usual, like any other president who believes they are the best even when the people don't trust them, Macron responded by appointing the defense minister, Sébastien Lecornu, who's actually his close ally, as the replacement to the guy that was ousted, Bayrou. You know, it's very interesting because people have been saying this. We are not happy with this party. We don't like how they run things. But he decides he's still going to go with someone of his side. So Lecornu is actually the fifth prime minister to be appointed in less than 2 years. It's been very harsh for this term has been very tough for Macron, and I don't know why he insists on being the president when. Imagine appointing up to 5 prime ministers in a season in less than 2 years. That should tell you something. And I think for Macron, he needs to accept. So Lecornu is actually the 5th prime minister to be appointed in less than 2 years and the 4th in just 12 months. So imagine in 1 year, Macron has had to appoint 4 prime ministers, and he still insists his way or the highway. But the people of France have gotten to a point they're like, you know what, you guy, you need to leave. We're tired. Whatever policies you're having, they're not working for us. They're not working for the people. And even if he keeps appointing people that are his friends, it's not working for him. So I don't know what he plans to do, because if this is where people are and they tell you they're tired, then it means they're tired. So many people say Macron's decision to appoint one of his close allies as the new prime minister is actually a slap on the face for what they had been speaking against and for why they are on the street. And also they say that they are tired of his successive governments and all they need is change. And the change they want is actually not for the prime minister. It's for the entire system, beginning with the presidency. So actually some people want, you know what, call dissolution of parliament or something so that we can have new elections. But of course, President Macron is not taking that route. So it's the same. Others say that it's the same Macron who's the problem, not the ministers. So they're actually saying, we have actually no many problems with the ministers, but we know where this problem originates. The ministers may be pushing, but what they're pushing are policies that have been established by the president or what the president wants. And so they do not want that. So some citizens said they expected either a dissolution of parliament or a left-wing prime minister and got neither, which they say is frustrating. You know, when you see people demonstrate, citing, and especially for this where in 12 months you've had 4 prime ministers and all of them have not managed to meet the people's needs, it means whatever policies you're working with are not working for the people. And so when they keep going to the street, when they keep saying, you know, Macron must go, it's for a reason. And that's why people are frustrated and getting to the streets. So the protests are fueled by a growing anger against, of course, President Emmanuel Macron's government amid a deepening political crisis. And this crisis has been going on for the last 2 years, let's actually say. It's not the first one. Just that now this year they've been more pronounced because, I mean, having 4 prime ministers in 12 months or in 1 year, that's crazy. That should send a message which I think he's trying to ignore. But I'm actually interested to see how much more he can ignore this. So some protesters opposed the budget cuts that Beru, that's the former prime minister, has pushed through before losing in Monday's vote of no confidence, saying that Beru was ousted, saying that his policies must be, since they opposed his policies and what he pushed for, then the policies that he was pushing for must also be eliminated, with calls for Macron to resign are spreading across. So they believe if we sent, if the guy through a vote of no confidence went home, then any policy that he believed in or he was pushing should also not be accepted. And this now is a question for the new prime minister, because if he continues to push the same policies, then he will also be told he must go. I'm sure a vote of no confidence is actually coming soon. Sooner than later, we will watch this. I mean, this French drama has been on for for quite a while now. So protesters also have broader concerns about the poverty and inequality, which have risen sharply in the recent years. And according to the France Statistics Bureau, which has been saying, I mean, the level of poverty and inequality are expanding by the day. And President Macron is not making it any better. Like, he's not giving solutions that, bring this gap closer. Rather, whatever policies they are pushing, they're just widening this gap. And so this is becoming frustrating to the citizens. And when citizens become frustrated, then, demos become a thing. So the Block Everything movement, which was actually started online, it's a loose, it's leaderless, a coalition born on social media. Very interesting. And I think this social media growth of social movement is very interesting, because even me as an African in Kenya, in 2024, there was a movement in Kenya for, anti-government movement, and people went to the streets. And again, now we can see it again also in France. It's the same. So it was started online. It's leaderless, coalition born on social media. And it actually started somewhere in May. And it started among the right-wing groups, but has since been taken over by even some left and far-left members who believe whatever policies that are there are not working, and whatever Macron has as, his commitment to France is not working for them. So the movement has now gained a lot of followers across, and that's why you're seeing people getting to the streets. So the Block Everything movement was fueled by rage over President Macron's fiscal policies and austerity measures, which, of course, are affecting the people at hand. Every time a government makes austerity measures that, they say we have to do this to fix, we have to do this, the people who suffer the most are the citizens. So the citizens say these austerity measures that they have, they're not working for them. Also, protesters' demands are varied, but many target the controversial budget plans that, of course, these plans, very interesting. They proposed scrapping public holidays, freezing pensions. I think that one for pensioners is really bad, and also making other cuts to balance the country's national debt. I don't know why presidents imagine they can do everything except something that affects them in leadership to fix any national debts that countries have. It's very, very absurd. And I think even economists need to tell us at what point do we deal with what the citizens feel can fix a nation vis-a-vis having policies that are actually not working. So the Interior Ministry through this said that after this protest that happened, said that about 473 people had been detained, and 80,000 police officers, between 80,000 and 100,000 were sent to the streets to deal with people, because these protests were in different cities. So it was very hard to control, because they just grew on the social media space. People believed in the movement, and they've been on the street saying Macron must go. So some protesters actually say that next week protests in conjunction with the French unions will be even bigger, because now the unions might be joining in. That is what is expected. And people cite that if indeed the unions join in, then it is going to be inevitable. And the big question is, that we are all watching is, will the if indeed they go on next week and people don't believe in the new prime minister and decide to continue, then will Macron resign? Or can Prime Minister Lecornu do something new that will change how the French people feel about it? Again, I know some people would question why this whole idea of having France protests affect us as African and why it bothers us. It bothers us. Number one, President Macron always speaks of Africa as this country, as this continent where France has interests, where democracy is not doing well. In fact, they were condemning the countries where the juntas took over, like Burkina Faso, saying the way they don't care about the people. But what democracy are you talking about in Europe if you are unwanted in Europe yourself, but then you want to dictate to Africans that they can work with democracy? I mean, if the people of France do not want you, how about you go home? The people of Burkina Faso maybe want their President Traore to fix their problems. Then what makes you feel you have a better way of addressing Africa and teaching us about democracy? I mean, it's about time. Maybe you fix your democracy first, and democracy is the will of the people. And if the majority of the people then feel that Macron needs to go, perhaps Macron needs to go and accept democracy. Then as Africa, then we can take, we can start saying, okay, fine, in Europe, democracy is working, then let it work for us. And maybe they listen to the people, then we can also listen to them. But now you can't come dictating to us and, being on high horses telling us how Africa needs to do this and that, how Africa needs to obey this. And you're doing nothing about it yourself in your own country, and the people actually don't want you. I mean, it's very interesting even when some African leaders imagine that they can use people like Macron to fix problems in Africa. I don't know if you remember, there's a time there was a crisis in, actually it's still ongoing, Congo and Rwanda. And there was an African leader who decided to call Macron to try and solve the problem in Africa. Wow. What lessons are you taking at this moment? I mean, it's very, very interesting. And I think African leaders now, it's time to believe in yourself and do that which you can for your continent and your countries. And when people tell you that there are things they want done, just do them. And this whole idea of democracy, I mean, it's a good thing. Sometimes it works, but I think to an extent it's a fallacy, because if it was working in France, then Macron would be gone home. When people say you must go, and they're the majority, then you should. Maybe they should have the dissolution of parliament, and then we see what happens next. Can even his party garner enough members? I highly doubt. So that's what is happening in France. We are watching to see what happens next. Prime Minister, we wish you well, Prime Minister Lecornu, but maybe bring in new ideas. But of course, you are Macron's friend, so I'm sure you will push the same policies that the people have said no. And in less than 2-3 months, I am sure people will be back on the streets again, or a vote of no confidence will be done. I don't know if he will now appoint another prime minister again. Very interesting and classical example of what not to be in terms of leadership, and why you shouldn't be shouting to Africans and telling them about democracy and, telling us how, we can make it to your country when in your own country you are unloved by the people. Yeah, maybe fix the systems and do that which the people demand. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments section about Macron's debacle, and also as an African, how do you feel about this, watching this? And anyway, what would be your advice to Macron? Yeah, let's catch up on the next episode of Geopolitics 411. Thanks for watching. The world is fast-paced and sometimes you miss the action. What perspectives do you have? What is the truth? Is the world at war? Join me, Sarah Mwangi, as we make sense of the information overload.